Good afternoon, y'all. How's it going? I hope you enjoyed HYPERTUFA Part 1 where we made pumpkins, and today we're moving on to making containers, specifically planters. I'll be showing you a variety of types of containers that you can use and some different ways to create a mold. And probably the planter that I'm most excited about is the one I do toward the end, and it is a pretty good sized trough. So without further ado, take it away, Janet. All right, let's move on to a container, because those are really a lot of fun to do. So it can be something as simple as this. It can be a pot that your plants came in. These are nice because they actually have little feet-like things there. Now, this doesn't have holes in the bottom, but you can drill the hole after the second cure. If it has holes in the bottom, you can actually poke the holes while you're making your planter. Now, for something like this, let me put my gloves back on. You need a good 2 inches at the bottom, 1.5 to 2 inches, because the bottom is going to support the sides. So the first thing you want to do is spray the entire thing with your Pam. And now you're going to pack about 2 inches down in this bottom. And you want to really push. Make sure you've got all air bubbles out. Now I could form the sides of this if I wanted to with my hands, but I'm not going to. I'm going to show you another alternative. This is a smaller cup. And I can, spray the outside of this with Pam. And then I can just pack the sides in. This little cup leaves me about 1 inch for the side walls, which that's good for this size container. If it were bigger, you'd still need about 1.5 inches on your side walls too. The biggest thing when you're working with concrete is to make sure that there aren't any air bubbles and that it's good and compacted, because that is what's going to make it crack and not look right. So I'm using a little wooden mallet here to kind of beat on the sides. Kind of smoothing out my top edge, so that's going to be the finished edge. All right, so again, we put it in a plastic bag. The plastic bag helps to keep it cool in there, cooler, so that it doesn't dry out so quickly, because you don't want it to be real hot. Let's talk about some other creative containers and things you can use on the inside. Here's just a pot that a plant came in, and I have lined it with this, which is that stuff that you use under rugs to keep the rug from slipping. So again, I'm going to spray that whole inside. Now I'm going to do something a little different to hold the sides in. on this. So I will show you. I'm going to do it by hand. Packing it in the sides, a little along. Work it and make sure you've got an even thickness all the way around. Now when you're doing a free-form pot like this, and you're not inserting another pot inside it to keep the walls straight, what you can do to keep everything from sliding and slumping down is I'm going to line it with a little piece of plastic. Then fill it with sand. Really pack that sand down in there. Now this one's ready to go. And just to show you what I mean about the plastic, I will actually line this cup. With plastic to show you how it will come out. And I need to spray that plastic Pam also. Something this small, you can get by with probably just a 1/2 inch to 1 inch in the bottom. And what can you put in something this small? Well, you know, these planters were used a lot for like alpine planters. So anything with a really, you know, shallow root, especially succulents. A little tiny succulent in this would look really cute sitting somewhere. And possibly like a floating little mini votive candle. You know, those tiny floating candles? Might fit, I don't know. Check my edges here, make sure I didn't push out too far. This is actually the 3rd day in a row that I have been making HYPERTUFA containers. I'm going to do a trough now to show you how to do that. I think this trough will be very pretty to use maybe for another fairy garden. I'm spraying it really well. Now, yesterday when I made my mix, I changed it up a little bit, and I've changed it today too because I decided to use vermiculite instead of perlite so that we could actually see the difference in the finish. Also, yesterday when I made my batches, I added some buff cement colorant to the mix to see what that looks like. Now, I've told that fades outside in the sunshine, and really there's honestly other ways to do colorant with stains on the concrete, but I just thought it'd be fun. I had it, so I threw some in, and I put that in when I put the concrete adhesive in with the water. I put this in there with it and shook it up real well, and then I kept adding water to the same gallon bucket as I needed to add water to make sure I got all the colorant out. So this is not colored. This is just the plain. I'm pretty sure we're ready to go. Been letting it sit. Yeah, see, it doesn't come apart. So we're good to go. I'm gonna have to move this down a little bit to have this totally. Now, this is gonna be heavy when I finish it. So, Randy's home. He's working on plans. So I'm gonna have him help me lift it. I will put this lid up underneath it. I didn't put the lid on right now because it kind of rocks a little bit, and I don't have a flat lid. So we'll do that afterwards. I'm not going to put the sand in it yet either. We'll take it inside, and I have a giant contractor's trash bag that we can slide it into, and I will put the sand in there. And the sand, remember, is going to help it hold the side walls and, you know, keep their shape. Now, this bottom needs to be a good 1.5 inches, 2 inches. And I made in this bucket, instead of one batch, I did a batch and a half. I don't know, I may end up having to make even another batch for this big, huge size. Yeah, see, that's only 1 inch. Yeah, I think I'm going to end up having to make a whole nother batch just to do the sides. I started to do a double batch in the first place, but it's hard to mix when you've got that much. But I have the products ready to go, so I won't have to sift to be ready to do the next thing. You might be asking me, well, same size tub, why didn't you just do it in the one it's in? Well, remember, you have to spray pan in your container. All right, we're at 2 inches. If you're doing a great big trough like this, it would probably be helpful to have an extra person mixing up another batch for you so you won't have to stop. And your sides need to be a good 1.5 inches thick too. You want to really press and squeeze those edges. Slowly build up to the top edge. You wouldn't have to go all the way to the top, but I'd like to. Alright, well, while I'm making this other batch, I am going to put the lid on it. Help keep it moist in there and put it in the shade. And I'll be back. I've got batch 2 made up, and it's been sitting, so it's ready. And while it was sitting, I did look for another lid, and I found this big yellow one, and it fits. So it'll be a little bit better and stiffer to carry it in the house. And even then, I will need to probably pack it down again because I don't want anything to crack in the process of moving it. And you know, I had said in the first video that ideally you want it about 60 degrees. I mean, obviously we don't keep our house at 60 degrees, but it's kind of in between 60 and 70 most of the time, especially at night. And with the door closed to my office, it stays cooler. Now, I wanted to mention something here. The lady that I, followed the recipe on, who uses vermiculite, she lets all of her stuff on the initial cure. She lets it cure for 3 days, not 2. But she uses vermiculite. She doesn't use perlite. And if you garden at all, you probably know that perlite doesn't hold water, but vermiculite does. So I don't know, because she didn't say this, I don't know if she lets it cure for 72 hours instead of 48 because she's using vermiculite and it holds water. But that would be my guess, because everybody else that I've seen make HYPERTUFA lets them just cure for some people 1 day. I don't think that's enough, but most are all say 2 days for that first cure before you take it out of the mold. And I think, I wouldn't swear, but for the most part, all of those people that I watched and blogs that I read, they all use perlite. So, with this being as big as it is, and the fact that it's vermiculite, I'm not even going to try to take it out of the mold until 3 days from now. At least doing this big trough, you can get an idea of the volume that it takes, that you have to make to do it. Now I'm building up in thickness and working on finishing off the top. I'm going to change my mind a little bit. I know it's going to make it heavier, but I am going to put a little bit of sand just in the bottom edge to help hold it in place while we're moving it. Okay. Time to go get Randy. Well, I'm on another batch again of day 3. This is going to be my last one because I'm getting tired. But I wanted to make another one just like the first planter that I did. I wanted to make one with the vermiculite so that we could compare the finish and I could show you the difference. So this one's ready. I just have a couple more that I wanted to show you. I haven't filmed all the ones I'm doing. Once you've seen a pumpkin, you've seen a pumpkin. But a wooden basket. I have cut 2 wires, which I'll tell you about that in a minute. Now, you're not going to spray your wood basket. You could probably, if you wanted to destroy the basket, you could spray it and put it right in the basket and then you'd have to destroy your basket to get it off. So because of that, I don't want to destroy my basket. So I'm just going to use some plastic. So again, I'm going to do about 1.5 inches in the bottom. And I forgot to spray my plastic. I can get it off the bottom, but definitely need to get these sides sprayed. You can tell I'm getting tired. And now for the sides. Now, when you do the sides on something like a basket, you need to really press on it hard to get the imprint. And it's not going to be perfect because the plastic gives a design in itself. But hopefully we'll have a little bit of that basket weave showing as an imprint. We'll find out. Now, why do I have the wire? Well, I thought it would be cool because I have some little leftover thicker branches of willow that I couldn't use in the arrangement. That is one of the next upcoming videos, because that part of the branch was toward the base and it wouldn't bend. So I thought, well, wouldn't it be cute to have a basket with a handle, wood handles. So I'm going to use that wire here in a minute. I'll show you. The purpose of the wire is going to be to hold eventually the branch handle on. Okay, going to bend the wire in half, and the loop side I'm going to stick in between, halfway in between the sides here. Now I greased the side of this. I'm going to actually use my can to really mash, press on these sides to try to get as much of the basket imprint as possible. Do you know that I almost used the entire 50 pounds of sand in that trough in the house? I will be removing the sand in the house back into my 5-gallon bucket, because that just added to the weight. But it should hold those sidewalls in place very well. Remember, that's why we use it. I wanted to mention another thing too about mixing. When in part 1, when I showed you the recipe, you might remember I had the peat moss and the perlite or vermiculite, and then the concrete, the Portland cement, all in the bucket at the same time. Well, I did that really just for demonstration purposes, because the best way to mix is to put your peat moss and either your perlite or vermiculite, whichever one you're using, together in the bucket first, in your tub, and get that thoroughly mixed first, and then add your Portland cement. It's a lot faster that way, and I forgot to say that in part 1. It does make it easier. Okie dokie. We'll see how this little basket's going to turn out. Picked up this cheap bowl at Dollar General, and I decided that I wanted to make, with this bowl, I wanted to make a planter that would go around my umbrella here on my table. So what I'm doing, I do need to do the hole this time because it's going to be a big hole and I don't want to have to drill that big a hole after the fact. I could go find the right size PVC and use that to make my hole, but I'm too tired to do that. I'm too lazy. This is like my 6th batch of stuff today, so I'm just using this little thing to kind of carve out a circle. That's gonna work. Okay, I'm gonna do a close-up so you can see inside this bowl before I fill it with sand. So I actually cut off a little bit of a cup so it would hold that hole the right size and in the center. So what'd you think? I have had so much fun with the HYPERTUFA projects. Kind of can't get enough. You know, you can also get Portland cement in white, which I think would be really awesome. I looked at Lowe's, they didn't have any. I haven't checked at Home Depot. You can order it online, but at Amazon it's not Prime and they charge more almost for shipping because it's so heavy than they do what it costs. So I'll have to wait on that and maybe see if the local places can get some white Portland cement in. So this video was long enough, so you're gonna have to wait for part 3 for the reveal of undoing all of the molds that you've seen me do so far. And of course I've already undone some of them, so I can tell you they're cute. I will have that video ready to go. Today's Friday, in 2 days. So stay tuned, hope you come back, and remember, bye, and have a good one.